Woo! It's the Golden Reach Show! That's yes.
And that's Sasha.
Oh my God, we're perfect. It is live on Adobe Radio. Maybe the only time ever we've ever done a perfect opening live. Pretty proud because everything has been going wrong today. We're live on Adobe Radio on a Monday night, live from the Adobe Radio studios here on a beautiful fall day. Find us everywhere. Cool Nerd Weed Show is what you should Google. We're on all the socials. Instagram has been pretty okay. I think it's because we're in this neat studio and they're like, oh yeah, maybe they're not trying to maybe they're not trying to do something that we want to ban them for or shadow ban them for. So find us on Instagram and definitely YouTube and always on Adobe Radio first and foremostly. That's where we are. That's where we love to be. Thank you, Adobe, for doing what you do. And thank you for everything. I think that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Adobe.
Yeah. I think I said all the things, right? Oh, I think today is the day that we're going to talk mostly.
We salute you, the United States of cannabis, under all 50 strains, one pre-roll, under bong.
But also...
Nerd Weed Show on Adobe Radio.
But also...
All right, sit down, light one up, pack a bowl, because the nerds have opinions. Grab your greens and sesh with the Cool Nerd Weed Show on Adobe Radio.
Thank you, Fish, our honorary third member of the show. Been here since the beginning. Yeah, the nerds have opinions, and I think the United States of cannabis is a pretty decent theme for this show. We're not going to be as politicky as we have been, but we are going to encourage you to vote out the gate. It's coming up.
Yeah, if you're not registered to vote, I don't think it's too late. Also,
I don't think so.
In many states, you can still register. Some up until the day of November. What is it? November 4th. up until
time
voting
left
day.
until election day. If you go to adobe.com, there's a big old beautiful juicy banner and it says vote Adobe, and it's very cool, and it's also on the Adobe Radio app, which is also very cool, and you just click on that bihatch and it takes you to vote.org. So there are 42 days, 4 hours and 54 minutes left until election day, which is the 5th. Thought it was the 4th.
That's an old school nerd countdown.
That's an old school nerd countdown is what that is, because we love a countdown. We really do. We really do. So that's easy peasy 1, 2, 3s. You can check your registration. Make sure you're good to go. If you aren't sure, I wasn't. I had to check. I am. Hopefully you'll be getting my ballot in the mail soon, and I'm going to mail that right off. And you should too. There's a couple of states where cannabis is on the ballot. We'll talk about that more as it comes, and we've talked about it previous. But just do some research. Make sure you know what you're voting on. Make sure you know how important it is to vote.
Your vote is your voice. So use your vote, use your voice, and you really do. You do make a difference, and it's a very important part of being a democracy is your right to vote.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing, you know?
Absolutely.
It's kind of like the whole deal of it. I saw Hamilton for the first time, and like they talk about that extensively.
A free and fair election.
Yeah, we like those here. It's like what we, it's what this whole country was about. So if we have the right, we should exercise it for our voice. We do. And it is quite possible that it is at stake. So yeah, just make sure you know how important it is, and try not to put too much pressure on fucking celebrities to give the endorsement of whoever the fuck you want them to endorse. Leave them alone. Leave them alone.
Some things can and should remain private.
Right. Like, I love that Taylor Swift was like, I'm a childless cat. Like, cat lady, she did the thing. Always and forever, I love it. Like, yay, I'm glad. But also, Chapel Roan said, really feel like saying who I like because I look at it right now and I feel like everybody kind of sucks, which is her right to feel that way. Now, I'm pretty sure Chapel's going to vote, and pretty sure Taylor's going to vote. And you know what? Again, private. It's private. You go when you go into your little voting area and your private little thing. It's the whole reason for it.
Oh yeah, it's the voting booth. In the olden days, they just close the curtain behind you.
Oh yeah. When you go in, you don't you like?
Oh yeah, you'd throw in a ballot with little punch cards. And you'd poke the little pieces out.
And
then you'd hit a switch, like a lever. You'd pull a lever, and it would punch them all, and then your ballot would drop secretly into a bin to be counted later.
Yeah.
But now you can vote by mail in many states.
Yeah.
You can vote early. Early voting has already started.
It sure has. Just, make sure you're doing it for yourself and for the good or what you feel is the good of the future of where you're living. And we wound up in a pretty neat place with weed. So, that's nice. We are progressing, hopefully, more and more. And we'll see what rescheduling looks like in the coming months, and that was from voting. we voted for all that stuff. So there's lots of things to think about, and you can only do that by getting your wits about you and letting celebrities do whatever they do and putting your nose down to it and getting out there and using your voice. Now, you don't have to go you don't have to go speak in front of people and say you don't have to do anything. Just vote. You don't have to get out there, shake hands.
That's all we're really asking is for you to go out and vote.
Yeah, that's what we're asking you to do. And we'll continue to do so until November 5th. But for now, we are going to talk about some fun stuff. This is a Nerds Have Opinions thing because we're going to give our opinions, but we wanted to have a fun little how to decide which cannabis strains to try moment. This is from Weed Maps, but we feel like it is always important to think about it and talk about it. And as a matter of factuals, I was just having this conversation when I was back on the East Coast because, we're still having like the indica sativa hybrid conversation. And I feel like that's fine. I don't think that's ever going to go away because it's just like the way that it is. But I would like to re-emphasize the terpene element of everything too, because that stuff is easily accessible now. Like you can see what terpenes you like and how you want to feel based on that.
Yeah, we have all the knowledge. So let's start. We want to start at the beginning of how cannabis strains where cannabis came from.
Sure.
And in the beginning.
Yeah. The beginning of time.
Cannabis originated in Central Asia.
It did. It's true.
And it through like the Silk Road and various trades, cannabis was brought all over the world.
It was, indeed.
So throughout this evolution of cannabis, growing in various climates throughout the world, it developed into what we call today like an indica sativas, basically, and sort of hybrids.
Right.
But through cannabis evolution, that was just referring to like the plants, like how they grew.
Yeah. So
traditionally in the various climates.
Right. Yeah. So it was like kind of the classification was like a sativa, which is whatever, taller and longer. I think like generally those plants were making people feel like uplifted and energetic and all that stuff. But that's not exclusive to a sativa plant necessarily. That's why sometimes if you smoke something that says it's a sativa and you're like, oh, it made me tired, it's because maybe that's not the terpene profile that you react to. It's not necessarily because it's a sativa or indica. It's just kind of the way the plant grows. And that's the best way I think I can describe it.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of factors that go into it. There was like the land races that would be like a traditional sativa would be grown close to the equator. There was like a long period of sunlight when it was growing. So through the evolution, the strains, the land races like developed different terpenes.
Right.
And depending on where the soil was grown in, various characteristics of the cannabis were emphasized, and there was all kinds of cultivation, and people knew what they were doing back then. We talked about it with like the founding fathers. If you like fast forward into like mid history,
we did. We had a President's Day episode that you'll probably find on the Adobe Radio app. It was very good and fun, and we talked about how our founding fathers, didn't talk about in Hamilton, but how they they liked the weed, and it was quite up their alley. And this is when these land races were being brought to this part of the world. And if you're a farmer and you're growing mad weed, yes, sativa indica hybrid, you do need to know that, and you need to know what goes where, and how to grow and all that stuff. So yes, if you're growing weed, those terms are still important. But if you're smoking weed only and you're looking to try stuff, try to get out of the sativa indica hybrid bubble if you can. I know it's hard because that's what we learned, and it's hard to unlearn stuff. But because I had trouble with it too. And I think everybody does. But once you think about it in terms of like what we're actually talking about, when you talk about sativa, it's how the plant grows. It's what it is. Terpenes are a totally different story. And to find your terpene profile and what you like, you're going to want to figure out how you want to feel and what you want to sense. Like what you want to taste and smell and all that stuff. Like those are the things you're going to want to look at first.
Yeah, absolutely more than just indica, sativa, and hybrid. Each cannabis strain is unique.
Yeah.
And has a different profile. Even strains that are the same, depending on how they're grown, each one's going to be unique and may affect you in a different way.
Right.
So, let's see. First of all, there's the cannabinoid content, which is THC, CBD. Those are, and now we're grouping all of those together. There's like you have like your total cannabinoid content that includes your terpene profiles and all of the trace cannabinoids as well. Right.
And somebody asked me this weekend, like, how do you know how much terps are in your weed? And nowadays you can't. Most states, if not all, that are regulated, it'll give you the total cannabinoid content, and even like separate. If some states break it all of them down. Like in Jersey, you get like a big long list of all the cannabinoids, but out here it's like 50-50 whether or not you're going to get a huge breakdown like that. But you probably will get the total terps at the very least on your label.
You should get at least the top 3 terps.
Yeah.
Some of the more reputable companies will give you the breakdown, 3 to 5 top terps, and a percentage of terps, which is very helpful. The higher percentage of the terps, actually, the better it's going to taste.
Right. Yeah. So on your label, you'll see likely the percentages broken down, and like Tia said, the higher the terps, the better it will taste, and the more like sensory feelings you'll taste. Like my mom was asking me what a terp was, like Chris, like my husband, every time I come home, he asks if we talked about terps because he thinks it's a funny word. But he literally asks us that every time we come.
I think it's hilarious.
I know, you always laugh.
He's like, did you talk terps? Did you talk terps today?
I'm like, actually, we did. We always do. But to like explain a terp, like there's obviously chemists and like terms and all that good jazz, but to like a layman's term, it really is just like your sensory reaction to something, like, and anything that has like a chemical makeup will have a terpene profile.
Yeah, it's your fruit has terpenes in it, various pepper, spices, everything has
Lots of plants.
all your plants.
Yeah.
It gives everything its flavor and aroma.
Yeah. Anything that your nose and tongue senses has a terpene profile, right?
Yes.
So, and if you think of it that way, you think of a plant specifically has a terpene profile. You can get these profiles from various different things, like Tia said, fruits, pepper, pine trees, citrus. That's a fruit. What else? Gasoline.
Yeah, those gassy notes.
It's true, though.
It is. It's true.
There are people who are calmed and enjoy the smell of gas. I'm one of them. So I'm sure that comes from.
I mean, it's all part of like aromatherapy and
Yeah.
how smells affect your
right.
mood and
that's different for basically everybody. So it's, you go and you look at a strain of weed. A strain. What did we learn? A strain of weed. And you go and you say, oh, well, this is Girl Scout cookies. What do we even call Girl Scout cookies? Indica dominant? Is that what we call Girl Scout cookies now? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think so.
Indica dominant hybrid.
Yeah.
Great. It's going to make me feel relaxed. I'm going to go to sleep. Hooray. So you smoke it and you're like talkative and bouncy and outgoing and euphoric. And you're like, well, wait a gosh darn minute. I thought I was going to be, munchies and eating lots of munchies. I don't know why.
Like couch locks.
Yeah. So something like that is like you can turn it around and say, oh, well, what's the terpene profile of Girl Scout cookies? Is this a terpene profile that I react to in a way that I like? And it may not be. It may not be the intended effect. So that's where looking up the terpene profiles for your strains comes in handy. And once you see those patterns show up a little bit more, you can kind of find what your favorites are.
Yeah, you can fine tune what you like because people come in all the time and they say, I got this. It was labeled an indica, but I didn't go to sleep. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
Here we go. Okay. So cannabis affects everybody differently.
Yeah.
And, sometimes those terpenes might not have worked the way that you thought they were going to work, or
right.
it was a totally different strain of. Also, you might have had that extra cup of coffee.
That's also true too.
Midday,
yeah,
so
like since weed is something that you're like ingesting and it alters your chemical or your chemistry a bit because it's like a psychoactive or it's a body effect or whatever you eat or drink does affect how you process weed. So yeah, maybe you had coffee and you smoked something that your terpene profile reaction isn't quite what you thought it was going to be. And that's okay. It's just there will be something else. There will be something else you can try. And, there will be a profile that you can find that will work for you. You can just start with what you want. And, we'll give you like a couple guidelines. But start with how you want to feel, what your senses want to feel, and like go from there. Even if you don't know anything about weed, because it's overwhelming to be like, there's 200 terpenes in cannabis. Go figure it out. Like, it's hard. It's hard to do that. Like, explaining it to people this weekend, I was like, I know it sounds like a lot of work to be like, when all you really want to do is chill out or have the energy to go through the day or whatever you want the effect of weed to do for you, or maybe help your headache or something.
There's also like hundreds of strains now.
So many
strains. There's always something new.
Yeah.
Like now, like there's strains I've that are coming out I've never even heard of. I got to look them up, and I'm trying to figure out what's what. And you're like, this one's a cross of super silver haze with something else, and I'm like, okay, that was traditionally what we would call a sativa,
Right.
and it's going to be, I can figure out what that is, but then it's crossed with this other thing that's bringing out different terps,
Yeah.
and you got to smoke it, and you'll figure it out. But if you're buying and consuming cannabis, you can, if you are in a state that allows you to smell,
Yeah,
if they
you
have
like
smell
smelling it.
jars. I love smelling it. I love smelling it.
I do too, but I don't like. I love smelling weed, and it's my favorite. It was my favorite part about everything weed involved. Because to me, I mean, I love the smell of weed, no matter what. Like, I just love it. It's like
Yeah,
roses to me.
Like great, like beautiful cannabis, well grown, has an aroma that is so intense and
Yeah.
bright. You love those bright flavors, and those notes come through right in the terp zone, the tip of your nose.
Yeah, and some like a skunky smell. Some will be like, "Ooh, that smells like I would really." That smells like something that my body would like. Some people don't like that. Some people like more of a citrusy smell or something that they would consider to be more cannabis, like some people are like, well, I want it to taste like weed, or whatever. Like that's okay. There's that too, for sure. So kind of get that down. See what your nose goes to, and this is like true with anything that you're ingesting. Really, it's just about like sense and or smell and taste are very interconnected for your brainsies. So weed tickles all of those things. Definitely a good place to start. Like, what do you want to taste? What do you want to smell? And if you can smell, try. But if you can't, then default to the next thing to look for, what you want to feel. And this is what we always ask you when you come in to a dispensary. How do you want to feel? Which I think is a lovely question. And like we said, everybody's chemical makeup is different. So just like anything, cannabis will affect everybody differently. However, there are certain trends that we can look towards, and you can try. You can mix and match. You don't have to smoke all of what you get. If you don't like it, you can put it aside, save it for somebody that does, and try something else, especially if you live in a state like California. But if you live in a state that's recreational, you know what I mean? Just try them all. Try them all. Just get out there.
That's great advice. Try as much cannabis and smoke as much as you possibly can. But there's no guarantee that any particular strain is going to affect everybody the same way.
Yeah, I just said that.
Perfect. Just to reiterate.
Yeah. But I know. Yeah. But the point of that, and thank you for bringing that up again, because you're right. And if you try one thing that your homie tried and your homie was like, yeah, this makes me feel so chill and relaxed. And for you, and OGs are like this too, like an OG may make somebody feel super chill and not stressed and take your headache away. But to the same exact person, not the same exact person, but to the same exact strain with a different person, it may make them really panicky and really, not feeling a little bit more paranoid than they want to feel. That is not the terpene profile for them. That is not the one that they should try. So everybody just does have a different reaction to anything. Tylenol doesn't work for some people, but it works for others. So it is good to keep trying and to find the thing that makes you feel how you want to feel. So that is something that you should identify pretty pretty early on too. How do I want to feel? Do when I smoke weed, do I want to be tired? Do I want to feel energized? What do I want to feel? And then you can look at your potency. So is it, this is like, controversial because
it's a bit debatable, the THC percentages and how much they actually, how important are they?
right.
I feel like to a certain extent they're accurate and they are important. But is it the be all end all of your full cannabis experience? Probably not.
I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say this again on the record. I think we should, because I am also a fan of high potency weed. It is difficult for me to smoke something that's like 20% and to feel really anything because I smoke a lot of weed. So potency is important, but once you get past a certain percentage, it's unimportant. So that there's that, and there's also the vape world. All vapes are going to be like 75 to 95% potent, and it'll say the terps, and there'll be a lot of them. But I'll say that doesn't always equal the desired effect. I know everybody's taking blinkers and really getting that vape in, but I would like to put forth that we maybe put aside the vape for a second and focus back on potency that is, one may say, normal.
We're gonna go, but we're gonna keep it with flower.
Yeah.
For this conversation.
No, I think in general people should stop smoking vapes. That's what I'm saying. I don't mean our conversation. I mean, well, I guess that is what we're talking about. But I just mean people in the world.
Okay, so we're going back to analog, like records.
Because yes, if you're looking for a vape, I guess you're going to want a high potency vape. I guess. Distillate, whatever is the highest for you, sure. And there will be terps in there. So, yes, you'll get all of those things. But if that's your only means of smoking, I just find it to be difficult to get relief for me just from vaping. What vaping only does for me is raise my tolerance, and that's kind of like it. I find value in it, but I do think if you're just looking to try out different weeds here and there, maybe vaping is something you want to try or go back to at a later juncture to try to just like re-level ourselves as a society in the weed world. Oh, keep your blinkers, keep your vapes, not against it, but in terms of how to decide which strain to find or to try, a vape isn't always going to be the best representation of the flower that you're going for.
Yeah, true. At 90% or whatever, 75 to 95% THC in a vape, I think all of those effects really go out the window. Like anything,
right.
Any traditional sort of effects or indica sativa hybrid, whatever we want to call it, or even a terp profile, with those concentrations, I think it's just like, it's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's just a different thing. So I would say potency-wise, yes, if you're just a light smoker, probably the lower the better. If you smoke heavy and you're trying a bunch of different stuff, mid to high potency is probably good, but it's not going to be the be-all, end-all of your desired effect. It goes into it, but don't be, if you see something that has a high terpene profile and low percentage, I can tell you that you will likely get the desired effect from your weed. You will, because it balances itself out. Like you get something with like 3% terps and 22% THC content and get pretty high.
Yeah, it's a better smoking experience as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we've had these high THC testing flowers, and I'm like, yeah, this is tested 36%. We get a sample of it, and then it just tastes awful.
Right. Yes.
And it's
yes.
probably like what, maybe 1% terp profile, but they weren't even
Whatever,
tested.
36%.
Like 36% THC.
And it's not good.
And it's just
we don't enjoy it. It's like smoking plastic. And that matters. The experience matters when you are going for a desired effect with weed and you're trying out different weeds. So just keep that in mind, that if your THC content's super high and the terps are low, it may not be your jam. Or it may. Who knows? You got to try it to find out. And then there's like a couple others, like how it's grown, indoors, outdoors. This day and age, you know, outdoor weed is great, but we have such great technology to grow indoors that I don't care. I mean, I know when I'm getting, like when I see an outdoor, like a brand that's outdoor, it's probably going to be a more
sort of
organic experience.
Yeah, an organic budget experience.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's like if you're growing in cocoa, you're growing in rock wool, or like people are doing indoor living soil. There's a big difference there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could definitely ask your bud tender that, and they should know that. And it is a different experience. And when you're us, like that, you know, when we see, what did we get? Like, we got some brand of weed that was like cocoa. It was like the advanced cocoa soil, and that was like a part of their like marketing or whatever.
Yeah. And we were like, so you grow in cocoa? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So does everybody.
Right. So like, yeah, like that stuff is definitely going to make a difference in what your weed does for you. So knowing whether it's indoor, outdoor, how it's grown is totally a thing that is important. But also know that you can figure that out as time goes too. You know, you don't have to go in knowing like, I want this specifically grown this way. Indoor or outdoor is fine. Just think about it. Sun grown is one thing, and indoor with the different things is another thing. It's all a matter of preference, and like you said, budget too. Outdoor weed is likely going to be more budget friendly.
Yeah,
The
usually
sun is free.
there's like, yeah, exactly. The sun is still free.
Yeah, still.
Until somebody can figure out how to charge us for the sun.
Yeah, and they will. Right now, it is free. Definitely make sure lab testing is a thing where you are. In a second, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk about New York and stuff. And it is important to note that is what regulation is for. We aren't going to talk about California, but there's a big lab kerfuffle here. That's a big bummer. And it's on both sides. It's on the lab side and it's on the cannabis side. And it makes me very perturbed. It really grinds my gears, because if we're going to pay all these freaking taxes and, you know, have to go through the growing pains of regulation, at the very least you can give me my lab tests that I so very voted for. So if you have access and you can see your lab tests, please take advantage of that. That's where you're going to see where your terpene profile is. It's where you're going to see your percentages. That's where you're going to see that there's no pesticides. All the things that you need to see will be on those lab tests. And in most states, you get a pretty decent breakdown of everything there. You can see where it was tested. You can see where it was grown. You can see who manufactured it. All the things are supposed to be on the label. If they're not, I don't know. Maybe whichever dispensary you went into isn't compliant. They're supposed to. That's part of the whole thing. Have a very comprehensive nutrition label on the packaging. Look at that, because that matters. And it all goes into what you want, what your desired effect is. And it really, I think, comes down to just trying and not being afraid of trying. If you don't like something, I promise you're not going to get too high. It's not going to mess you up, you know. You may, whatever you had planned might not happen at that moment, but it's okay. Hopefully you'll get to it. And I just want to encourage people to try, even though it is a different experience for everybody. There is a way to find what terpene profile works for you. Just try something and work backwards. Look it up on the internet, what your profile is. You'll find it. And just find the terps that like keep showing up. You know?
Yeah, make some notes, keep a little cannabis journal, and
definitely.
what works, what doesn't work, and we'll help you find and fine tune what you need in your cannabis consumption.
Yeah, in your cannabis journey. We got you. Hopefully this helped a little bit. We're such nerds. We just like just talk. We just blab. We are going to talk about New York. I've been wanting to talk about New York weed for a few weeks now because they just closed like a metric butt ton of illegal, like a bunch of trap shops, smoke shops just got closed, and a bunch of grows just got closed. Like a bunch of illegal grows just got shut down by like the fire department. And I mean, it like they're really cracking down on cowboy weed out in New York because the smoke shops there is one on, there's quite a few on every street. It's, the bodegas, it's for sure the Wild West out there, which is fine with me, like I don't mind, but I'm sure if you're trying to enforce regulations, it's getting in your way. So they went ahead and they did a sweeping reprimanding of all of these places, but I was hoping that would be replaced with a bunch of good stuff, like legal or regulation or whatever, up to code dispensaries. And I did see quite a few more what looked like legitimate dispensaries when I was in my travels, but not enough for all the trouble that everybody's getting into. And like in one of our last episodes, we posted the video today, we were talking about New Jersey and the corruption in New Jersey that we expected was going to happen with cannabis because New Jersey, but didn't really. But instead, New York has had so many issues. And the latest one is with social equity or the social equity program. The person heading it up has resigned, which I feel like is a really bad sign for anything. But it's never good when the person in charge of the most important part, which is getting people out of jail and keeping them out of jail for weed and giving them a place to thrive, when that's our favorite part of and that is also something that New Jersey did quite differently. It's why Governor Murphy has a strain named after him. That's really the very important thing. And New York is fumbling quite a bit.
Yeah, New York has been stumbling its cannabis this rollout program.
You're so mad about it. Don't get violent.
That New York. What is happening in New York? Let's see. Recently, Damian Fagan, Chief Equity Officer for the state's Office of Cannabis Management, or the OCM, is resigning from his post due to some shenanigans that went on. You're supposed to be in charge of social equity. So it was, what was the specific? Damian Fagan actually is stepping down because he was punished somebody who came forward with complaints about the fuckery that was actually happening in the New York State cannabis industry. So,
that's so bad.
You're in charge of the social equity program,
right?
And then you're like, you're already, there's some discrepancies there right away. And then when somebody came forward to report them, then you were like, you put their I don't know if this actually happened, but you put their application at the bottom of the pile,
Right.
or you use your power in some way to like mess with them, and that's not good. That's not a good look for your social equity program in New York.
No, it is not. And he was cleared of any wrongdoing, whatever that means, but he did resign because it's not a good look. And even if it wasn't him, it does seem like something around him went on that was a little shady beans. And there still is a lag in licenses. There's a lag in funding for licenses. There's no real estate availability because New York. So it's difficult. You want weed to thrive. You want it to make a lot of monies, but you're not giving them a place to legally sell it. And the ones who are unregulated and unlicensed are selling it, which is what the government doesn't want. But it's the only way to move weed out in New York right now because nobody can open up a shop. So that is very frustrating. And there was a lot of people who spoke up about that in the last couple years. So it looks like Fagan, what faggot? I don't know his name. But Fagon. Hopefully. Oh man, what a difficult life he must have had.
I'm sure.
I don't want to make it harder on you, buddy, but I think it's too bad. It's too bad he's a farmer. So I hope it works out for Alexander, and whoever steps into the role, I hope makes social equity a priority and not, using their power to punish somebody who's speaking up about all of the things that we just said. That's very frustrating for somebody who wants to start selling weed legally, especially if it's a social equity program and you have been penalized for weed in any way and you just want to get to getting. And the government's like, well, here's all the tape you have to cut and jump through and do all the things. It's not right. So that's frustrating. And having somebody who's like, I guess, the face of social equity taking a dip, also not great. And closing down and shutting down, and you're making weed less accessible, really, is what you're doing. And I don't know why.
Yeah, the state of
I don't understand.
The state of New York has stumbled so many times during the rollout. According to this, during this year, the revenue that cannabis has generated has only been $429 million, which seems low to me.
It does seem low.
For a state that's so big and there's so many people, especially in the New York City area,
Right.
that everybody seems to be shopping in the traditional market still.
Right.
And, as a business owner in New York, how the state's not making it easy for you to do business and actually, come into the light and as like a legacy owner or any entrepreneur that wants to actually sell cannabis in the state of New York is throttled.
Right.
In so many ways. How are you going to actually, if you want to set up anywhere, you need a location before you apply for a license.
Right.
You need to have the money for that location to secure that location, and then wait till you get your license. You need all these approvals, and the whole time you're just like throwing money
And not making any money.
They've got no income.
None. There's no revenue. So I do feel like they have been making it difficult to do this. And the reaction has been the bodegas and the smoke shops, which makes sense to me. And I feel like that's civilized, really. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and also I'm selling it out in Union Square and all that stuff. That was also the reaction. There's a lot of weed that is being produced that has nowhere to go. And you can't just keep weed. It has an expiration date. So it has to go somewhere. Farmers need to produce or to get rid of their product and produce more product. It's just how like the ecosystem like works. So it is, if it's not moving in the state, and that's a very low number. I was trying to look for like maybe sales here for this year from January to August, but I couldn't find it. But I do feel like that's insanely low. Like I feel like that's what we make in like a month here in California. In all of California, I feel like that's what we make in like a month. It does seem really low. There's not a lot of dispensaries open. You know that if you're there. So I don't know, New York. I do hope you get it together. I don't know how or what the fuck you're doing, but it does seem like it's a low priority for you, and I don't know why. Just get it together. Look at how it's gone for your New Jersey counterparts or New Jersey neighbors. And it's kind of crazy to think New Jersey is doing better than New York at something, but we are, or they are. And it pains me. It pains me to see happen in New York because I really want them to get it together. And I really want it to be a flourishing and bustling weed economy out there, because I really think it could do well for that state and that city. And I love it so much. I love New York so fucking much. And I would just love to see it like it is out here. I think it would be great for social equity, and it would be great to have everybody working, because there really was a lot of people affected by weed being illegal in New York. A whole lot. So a little redemption would be nice. Okay, we're going to move on to the final puff.
The Final Puff with TS and Sasha.
Okay, yes. It is the final puff. This is good news. This is happy news. Our very legendary Marconi from Mood Killers, which is, I believe, on Fridays. Yeah, it's on Fridays. Very, very cool and talented dude. Sent us this way. Over in the great state of Illinois, who I have to say, every time we talk about Chicago and Illinois weed, it is in a positive and good light. They went recreational not long ago, and it seems like its social equity is going really well. It seems like it's moving right along, and yeah, this is good news. So the smell of weed is not probable, and this is where you know your rights. The smell of weed is not probable cause to search a vehicle in Illinois. It's like that in California, right?
Yes.
It is not like that in many other states where it's recreational. Make sure when you are traveling, you look this up. And if you do want to smoke in your car, wherever you are, don't be behind the driver's wheel. Please. Even if you're parked, even if you're stationary. Sit in the back seat or in the passenger seat.
Take the keys out of the ignition.
Please do. Please, I beg you with my whole heart, no matter what state you're in. And then, once you do that, look up, whether once you're done, and you go home, because you're already in front of your house, you don't need to drive, because we don't want you driving. You go home, you sleep, you forget to put the windows down a little bit, you get up, all nice and refreshed after a nice late night sesh in front of your house in a stationary car in the passenger seat, and you get back into your car for work. You're like, wow, it smells like weed in here. Damn, that's dank. And you're driving along. Maybe your taillight's out. And you get pulled over. And you're in Illinois. And that sticky, icky smell is still wafting, even though you have not smoked all day. Know your rights. Know your rights. If your boy pulls you over and says, I smell a little something. What do you say?
I don't smell anything, officer.
Why did you pull me over?
Well, that's a good question.
And in California, they're supposed to tell you. Not all the states are like that. But California, they just passed a new law that says when they pull you over, they must know. You must know.
I failed that pop quiz.
Right
Can
now?
we do that again?
Yeah, we could do that again. Okay. Looks like, yeah. Oh, no, wait. I'm not going to say anything.
Officer Sasha.
License and registration, please.
Here you go, ma'am.
Thanks. Looks like it smells like you were having a good time today.
Why did you pull me over, officer?
Oh, well, you have a taillight out, but I don't know. Looks like there might be something else going on in this car. You have some fun this morning?
I don't wish to discuss my day,
Woo!
officer.
I mean, no, that was me breaking character. Sorry. I got excited because you know your rights. Oh, well, thank you for answering that politely. I'm going to go probably do some shady shit. That's a story for another day. Before we get political, those were perfect answers. It is hard to do when you're in the moment, and I have been in the moment, and I'm shaking, and my heart is beating out of my fucking mouth. And for people who people of color, it's 50 bajillion infinity times scarier to be pulled over. This is why you know your rights up and down, throughout, left and right. And in Illinois, cops have to tell their story walking if they smell any weed in your car. It is not cause to search vehicles, so they cannot note it anywhere. They can't, it's not like alcohol where they smell on your breath. It's cause for you to get the hell out of the car. Know your rights. You are Gucci. Don't drive under the influence. Don't do silly things. Keep yourself safe and the world. But just know that if there's residual smell, which my car literally always has, even if I haven't smoked in weeks, it's embedded, you're good to go, which is great.
Yeah, in Illinois, the Supreme Court voted unanimously, and it has set a precedent.
It really has. It really, really has. And this was kind of like after an incident that happened in Illinois. Somebody was driving a bit over the speed limit, got pulled over, smelled some weed, searched the car, found a gram of weed, and tacked that on to the speeding ticket, which becomes a different case. And this citizen was like, well, no, that I'm not peddling drugs. I had a legal amount of weed in my car that I hadn't smoked. All of what I've done is legal. So they went to court and ruled that the smell of weed was unjustified and that we can no longer charge you or search you, rather, for just the smell. And I think that that's important. However, I've been to quite a few legal states where that is not the case. They can still do whatever the hell they want if you're pulled over for things. I feel like maybe New York might be like that. I feel like New Jersey. I don't know. I think it might still be probable cause.
PC if you smell a little cannabis.
I know. I don't think so.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah.
okay.
I don't, but I'm not certain. Last I checked, I feel like still be very careful when you're smoking in Jersey. Maybe skip the car sesh. Do it somewhere else because you just want to be safe. And I don't know that for sure. I didn't look it up. But the last time I was driving through the country, because even though I'm super careful when I'm driving through the country not to have weed in my possession, and I really am, that's true, I still like to look it up because my car smells like weed. My clothes, I smell like weed. Like, I don't know what you want from me. So every time I'm driving, I look it up. It is a probable cause to search. It's very important to know your rights, and it's very important to know what you can and can't say, especially in times like that where it's nerve-wracking and you're nervous and it's unpredictable. At least you can kind of fall back on a bit of calm and a bit of knowledge that in Illinois we're making steps in the right direction. So thank you, Illinois. Thank you, Adobe Radio. New York, get your shit together, or I'm going to be really mad at you. And try all the weed in all the world and enjoy it. And
Don't panic.
it's organic.